Hi everyone. So I wanted to make this video just to give you some more details about your final project in this class. Um, to ensure that closed captioning is working, I won't be sharing my screen, but you'll be able to watch this as you're kind of looking through the assignment. So the general idea of your final project is that I want students to tap into something known as metacognition. And it's the idea of knowing what you know and then also thinking about why did you do what you did. And for me, I always think that it's a missing piece of education in general until you start getting to your upper level classes of I made a decision and here's the reasoning behind that decision. And it's not just to get a grade in the class. I fully recognize most of you are going to do this assignment to get a grade in the class. But how you go about this assignment is completely up to you. There's not a ton of guardrails that I have on your final project. And it's because I want this to be your creation. I want this to be your showcase of understanding of materials. Um, so that way you can think back to it. So on the assignment description, you will find, just kind of the breakdown. And so the first thing is choose a topic. And I have stated that I want it to be a topic that was never covered in this class. So your textbook has a lot more chapters than what we had time for this quarter to highlight. And so that's what I'm kind of hoping students utilize. Um, the biggest one that I typically get is the mental health chapter, which totally fine that students will select a certain um, disorder and they'll explain what it is and highlight it, and that's great. But there's a lot of other chapters as well that you could select from just to kind of showcase your understanding of a topic. So the ones that I've listed under step one, those are just, you know, suggestions out there. Um, Depending upon how far we got in the class, there might be some that are listed here that actually wouldn't qualify. So just kind of be aware of that, that some of my courses we move through material a little bit faster than others. So you just want to ensure that you're not just looking at this list and viewing it as like this is the only ones that you can pick. This truly is just a limited selection just to give you some ideas. Part two then is to create a reflective artifact. And I have different suggestions on what that could be. This will be a little bit similar to the creative assignment from the consciousness unit, where you can, do a wide variety of different things to showcase your understanding. And most people picked either an infographic or like a short story. Totally fine. You can redo that artifact type if you wish to. But just know like it'll probably have to be a little bit more in depth than what you did for that assignment because you'll have to do more with it. But on the description, I put things like a poster, concept map, a comic strip. You can make a video. You can do, role play demo, escape room style quiz where you kind of map out what an escape room could look like within the confines of your concept. I've had students create like Jeopardy games, for instance, and have friends play through it, and they just recorded the playthrough to illustrate their artifact. You can do a narrated slideshow, a podcast if that's more your thing. And then also totally open to other ideas that students may come up with. This is a list that I gathered through colleague suggestions. I also used ChatGPT to come up with different ideas. And so, yeah, I'm really open to any ideas that students want to use to illustrate their understanding. So you're going to make a thing, whatever that thing is. And I don't I don't want to say I don't care about the artifact that you create, but that's not supposed to be the highlight of this assignment. This is where it gets a little bit different, in my opinion, than what a lot of other projects you may have done would look like. Is like, yes, I do want you to make something, but that thing that you make is not a substantial portion of your overall grade. The majority of your grade is coming from a presentation that I want you to record. So you're not, you know, we're not setting up a synchronous Zoom time for all of you to present to the class or anything like that. You're just going to upload your recording for this assignment, and then I will watch it and just kind of look at how are you, doing the tasks that I want you to do. So the first thing on the assignment description for this section is do not read from a script. This is a little bit of my trying to prevent AI from just kind of doing this project for students, is that I recognize you could absolutely just have AI write a script for you and then read it off and call that good. And so I want this to be the exact opposite. I want this to be very raw in the sense that you're going to stumble over words. You're going to have not have things well timed out. You're going to have fillers like I just did with an to gather your thoughts about it. I don't want this to be a well-rehearsed presentation. I want this to be essentially you make your artifact and the next day you're showing off, potentially just to me, and you're just telling me what you did. Like that's what I want it to be. If it is very well polished and rehearsed and I can tell that you're reading off a script, there will be a point penalty for that, which is again why I wanted to make this video to highlight this a bit because yeah, I don't want this to be a clean, polished presentation. Because I don't know then if this is truly your work or if this is just something you're reading off a screen. Um, so things to include is that you're going to do a brief introduction of the concept. So tell me what you picked. What does it mean? Show or demo your artifact. So whether you're doing something digital and you're just going to maybe do a Zoom video with the um, screen being shared for it, or maybe you do a poster and you just kind of prop up your phone or have a friend of yours hold the phone while you give a presentation and walk through it. However you do it is totally fine. In the past, I've had students essentially do their video while they're cooking dinner for their family. I've had it where they're literally watching their kids and their kids come up into the frame and say hi, and that is totally fine. It's again the natural aspect that I want to see with this. Um, Next thing on the assignment is explain how your creation reflects the psychological principles or demonstrates key applications. So essentially, I made this thing to showcase my understanding of this concept. Here's how it does that, right? Here's why I picked this image. Here's why I chose to highlight this aspect of the concept. And I am wanting to see like to that fine grain of decision. Um, so if you have a picture of something, why did you include that picture? Why is it that specific one? It could be, I don't know, it was just the first one that I saw that I liked. But again, why did all the other ones not get picked? Right? Like I want this to be, again, a full reflection of every decision that you're making. You should be highlighting that in your presentation. So that then the next item on the description is add personal insight. So why you chose the topic, how it relates to real life scenarios, and then also like why you chose the different pieces that you did as well. And then conclude with a reflection. So what you learned, challenges you faced, what you'd like others to take away. And then, I also have tips for natural delivery with this as well. And then the final thing for this is a one-page reflection paper, just because for the recording, I want it to be, about 5 to 7 minutes. So not a ton of time in the big scheme of things. And if you have to go over, here's what I made, here's why I made those decisions, here's how it showcases my understanding. I recognize like there isn't going to be a ton of time left over for you to do like a full reflection in the video. And there's a little bit of a trade-off because at the same time, if I have to watch all my different classes for this, I'm also running up against time there. And so I'd much rather have a shorter video and have the reflections kind of separated out from that. So that way I give you full opportunities to really highlight here's what I'm taking away from this assignment, not only from a conceptual standpoint of showing you here's what I learned about the psych concept, but also from that metacognition piece of having to explain why you made the decisions that you did. It ideally puts a different spin on things, and it also gives you ownership of this. I don't really have much guidelines other than make something and then create a video explaining these things, but that's it, right? It's a very open-ended assignment by design. So you'll do the one-page reflection, and then on here I'd also have a checklist, just because I do recognize like I'm asking for multiple things in here. Um, Ultimately, it's going to be 2 or 3 submissions that you're making, right? So for sure you're going to submit the video that you recorded of yourself. For sure you're going to submit the reflection. And the third one, maybe you will submit the artifact. Again, it all depends on how you incorporate the artifact into the video. If you have the video able to showcase it off really well, you probably don't need to create another submission for the artifact. If the artifact doesn't really show up well in the video, or there's just issues with getting into frame, all that stuff, you may want to just kind of protect your grade essentially by submitting the artifact or submitting a picture of just the thing that you made. So that way I can get a clearer look of at it and just kind of grade it appropriately. And so here, next thing would be grading criteria. So you can see that. And then I also have some example projects. So social psychology, which some of my classes got to this quarter, others did not. But you could ultimately film a role-playing scenario where you're demonstrating conformity in a group task. Um, Developmental psych, same thing. Some of my students got to this, some did not. A narrated slideshow showing how a child grows through Piaget stages, and also including examples from media or interviews. So essentially, you can use mainstream things. A really common one that you can find a bunch of examples on YouTube of is connecting personality characteristics to mainstream characters. So there's personality characteristics known as the Big Five personality. And again, on YouTube, you can find dozens, if not hundreds, of videos that show openness to new experiences is represented by this cartoon character. Absolutely, you can do something like that. Or stress and coping. This one, none of my classes got to. A series of short sketches showing different coping strategies. Yeah, each one tied to a different theory, and then followed by your explanation of like why does it work or how does it work. So, um, this is due. I think I might have slightly different due dates across my classes. I try to stagger the final projects in my classes. So hopefully like the next day I can just knock out a class worth and then, the following day a new one is due. So it will be due during finals week. It's just a matter of, what day during finals week will vary depending upon the section of the class. Um, so it's, due beginning of December. So we're still, 3 weeks away. But I also recognize you have other classes and obligations. And so I wanted to make this video now just to encourage you to start early, encourage you to reach out to me if you have any questions early on. As we get closer to finals, while I will absolutely try to be available, that's also the peak period that students will be reaching out to me for a lot of different questions and asks and clarifications. Um, and so I just know that the timeliness that I get back is going to start to dwindle as we get closer to finals because the demand is just going to be so much higher. So again, really encourage you to start early just so you don't run into the issue of like not getting an answer when you need it. So with that, then we'll wrap up this little kind of more detail video. Um, and yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know.